China's steel railway, a silent weapon that alarms the world. A train has just completed a journey of over 6,000 miles from China to Iran in only 14 days, twice as fast as the maritime route. But this is more than just a railway. Behind those quiet train cars lies a calculated strategic move. China is quietly building a trans-Eurasian logistics corridor, bypassing Western-controlled chokepoints like the Strait of Malacca. Funded by Beijing, the route runs through Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan and connects to Iran, a sanctioned nation that still plays big on the geopolitical chessboard. This isn't simply about transportation. It's a new lever of power that the US and the West can't afford to ignore. In this video, you'll discover why a seemingly ordinary project has the potential to upend the entire regional landscape. A railway line rarely makes headlines in international news. But in an era where logistics form the backbone of soft power, even a transport corridor just a few hundred kilometers long can carry strategic consequences far beyond expectations. The China-Iran Railway is a prime example. It not only reduces transit time from over a month to just 2 weeks, but also signals a shift in infrastructure strategy where nations increasingly view control over transportation routes as a vital key to strengthening autonomy within the global supply chain. The route's passage through Central Asia, a region less vulnerable to naval forces or choke points like the Strait of Malacca, is no coincidence. It reflects a growing preference for land corridors designed to avoid dependence on maritime routes that are easily disrupted by geopolitical tension or armed conflict. Beyond the economic advantages, the railway also highlights a shift in how nations forge partnerships. Long-term infrastructure development is replacing short-term agreements, becoming a tool to build trust, expand influence, and reshape the landscape of intercontinental transportation. China and Iran have had ties since the days of the ancient Silk Road. But a true turning point came in the early 2000s when China accelerated its Belt and Road Initiative. After 2010, as Iran became increasingly isolated under harsh Western sanctions, China emerged as a key economic, energy, and political partner. According to China's Customs Administration in 2022, Beijing imported an average of 870,000 barrels of oil per day from Iran, despite U.S. sanctions. This illustrates both China's vast energy demand and its willingness to sidestep Western-imposed rules for strategic gain. Bilateral trade exceeded $15 billion, driven largely by oil, but also including industrial plastics, chemicals, metals, and consumer goods. The most significant milestone in the relationship came in March 2021, when the two countries signed a 25-year strategic cooperation agreement in Tehran. China pledged to invest approximately $400 billion in key sectors such as infrastructure, energy, transportation technology, and security. In return, Iran agreed to provide long-term oil and gas supplies at preferential rates and to open its domestic market to Chinese firms, spanning telecommunications, mining, and the development of strategic industrial zones. Unlike short-term trade deals, this agreement marks a shift from economic cooperation to a long-term strategic alliance. Beyond oil and industrial investment, the agreement also outlines collaboration in military affairs, cybersecurity, and defense technology sharing, laying the foundation for a comprehensive partnership. Several Chinese tech giants, including Huawei and ZTE, have quietly expanded their footprint in Iran, assisting with the development of 5G networks, smart city surveillance systems, and sensitive fields like artificial intelligence and big data. This cooperation has taken root as Western countries retreat from Iran, leaving a vacuum that China is readily filling. Analysts note that the China-Iran partnership has moved well beyond basic oil trade, trending toward a new axis of influence in the Middle East, separate from American and allied dominance. Though China avoids direct military involvement, it is steadily expanding its presence through investment, technology, and a calculated geopolitical strategy. From Iran's perspective, its cooperation with China not only helps ease the burden of sanctions, but also opens the door to a more diversified foreign policy, avoiding over-reliance on any single major power. Strategically located between the Middle East and Central Asia, Iran plays a pivotal role in the intercontinental logistics web that China is quietly constructing, from Pakistan's Gwadar port to Central Asian rail links and economic corridors stretching into Europe. Since the early 2010s, China has grown increasingly concerned about what's known as the Malacca Dilemma, a shorthand for the strategic vulnerability posed by potential blockades of the Malacca Strait. This narrow waterway linking the Indian Ocean to the Pacific is a vital artery for global shipping and carries over 60–70% of China's imported oil and liquefied natural gas, equivalent to more than 7 million barrels per day, as of 2023, according to the International Energy Agency, IEA. Yet Malacca's commercial advantage is also its greatest strategic weakness. It's a choke point that could be easily controlled by Western naval forces. The growing U.S. presence in Singapore and the South China Sea, coupled with strengthened alliances like AUKUS and the Quad in the Indo-Pacific, has intensified China's sense of vulnerability. A 2020 study by the Singapore Institute of International Affairs SIIA warned that a mere 7-day blockade of the Malacca Strait could cost China over $10 billion, a direct hit to its energy and supply chain systems. In response to these mounting risks, China has taken action. Since 2013, it has rolled out the Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), prioritizing the development of overland trade corridors across Asia. The goal is not only to boost commerce, but also to build secure logistics routes that minimize reliance on maritime shipping. A standout project is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor (CPEC), stretching from Kashgar in Xinjiang to the Arabian seaport of Gwadar. This port serves as a key hub for strategic goods and oil from the Middle East, allowing Beijing to bypass the Malacca Strait entirely. From Gwadar, energy supplies can be transported directly into China via land routes or pipelines. Beyond CPEC, China has also advanced railway networks across Central Asia, including the China-Kazakhstan-Iran-Turkey route, which links Western China directly to Europe without passing through maritime choke points. These corridors are backed by numerous bilateral agreements with strategically located countries such as Iran, Turkmenistan, and Russia. This shift to land-based routes strengthens China's energy security and adds diversity to its global supply chain network, an urgent priority in light of disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and ongoing U.S.-China tensions, which have exposed the fragility of traditional supply chains. Thus, the Malacca Dilemma is no longer just a geographical concern, it has become a key strategic driver behind China's nationwide logistics overhaul. The smooth operation of the China-Iran Railway represents more than the movement of goods. It carries Beijing's ambitions for supply chain sovereignty, national security, and expanded global influence in the 21st century. The year 2025 marks a major milestone in China's overland transport strategy as the railway connecting Xi'an to Apran Dry Port near Tehran begins trial operations. After years of negotiations and construction, the first freight train completed its 6,000-mile journey in just 14 days, nearly 50% faster than maritime shipping via the Suez Canal and Malacca Strait. The route passes through Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan, crossing deserts, rugged mountain terrain, and difficult border regions. Despite obstacles such as inconsistent infrastructure, technical standards, and customs regulations, China has closely coordinated with partner countries to establish a logistics backbone linking East Asia to the Middle East. In Iran, several segments of the railway have been constructed underground or reinforced with earthquake-resistant features to adapt to challenging terrain and natural disaster risks. The total investment for the route exceeds $2 billion, with the majority of funding coming from the China Development Bank (CDB), the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank (AIIB), and bilateral loans between Tehran and Beijing. A striking example of the route's regional connectivity came on May 9, 2023, when a train carrying 655 tons of construction equipment departed from Iran and passed through the 100-mile-long Kafarat line, heading directly into Afghanistan. This was the first tangible result of China's broader effort to expand its influence not just in Iran, but across Southwest Asia. More importantly, the China-Iran Railway is far more than a fast logistics corridor. It represents a strategic link within the broader Belt and Road Initiative (BRI). This railway enables China to reduce its reliance on vulnerable maritime routes while opening diversified pathways into Middle Eastern, European, and African markets. It stands as a symbol of Beijing's evolving strategic mindset, where infrastructure serves not only economic goals, but also becomes a tool for expanding political influence and reshaping the geopolitical order of the 21st century. The launch of trial operations for the China-Iran Railway in 2025 has quickly drawn global attention not just for its logistical implications, but for its broader strategic impact in the post-pandemic era and amid ongoing geopolitical shifts. This route is seen as a powerful symbol of the global supply chain realignment, emphasizing reduced dependence on traditional maritime channels and a pivot toward continental connectivity. In Central Asia, where the railway passes through countries like Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Kyrgyzstan, see the corridor as a new gateway to global markets via Iran's seaports. It also promises to attract infrastructure investment, generate employment, and enhance regional integration. Many experts view this as a key step in the growing land-linked strategy between East Asia and the Middle East, supplementing the established maritime trade routes. However, from a Western perspective, concerns are emerging over the trend toward more localized or regional trade frameworks. These new overland corridors are often built on bilateral or regional agreements rather than global standards. Some analysts warn that this could lead to greater economic fragmentation, reduced transparency, and undermine the long-term stability of global commerce. Notably, the railway's trial phase coincides with sensitive developments inside Iran, raising questions about the growing intersection of transport infrastructure, energy flows, and national security. While concrete evidence is limited, many analysts agree that these three domains are becoming increasingly interwoven and central to modern geopolitical strategy. For Iran, this railway represents more than just a logistics route. It serves as a vital tool to sustain oil exports and bypass sanctions-related bottlenecks. Regional reports suggest that Iran's energy export revenues showed modest signs of recovery in 2023-2024, although independent verification of those figures remains pending. Positioned at the crossroads of Central Asia and the Middle East, Iran is playing an increasingly strategic role in transcontinental connectivity initiatives. Bordering Afghanistan and located near several landlocked nations such as Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, Iran holds a unique geographic advantage as a land gateway linking the interior of Eurasia to the Persian Gulf and the broader global maritime network. As the world shifts toward more secure and resilient supply chains, the proposed five-nation railway corridor, China, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Iran has captured growing attention. Its goal is to give landlocked countries access to the sea and enhance their integration into global trade networks. The route is planned to pass through northern Afghanistan, a region historically marked by instability, but now seen as a potential candidate for infrastructure recovery and economic revival. The Asian Development Bank (ADB) has expressed interest in funding this segment as part of a post-conflict development strategy aimed at promoting regional stability through improved transport and trade connectivity. Iran's role goes beyond being a simple transit point. It acts as the critical maritime outlet for the entire corridor. With overlapping interests in commerce, infrastructure investment, and political collaboration, many analysts refer to this emerging route as a modern-day Silk Road, with Iran holding a central position in the shifting geopolitical landscape that links Asia and Europe. As traditional maritime routes like the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea face growing threats from conflict and instability, many nations are actively searching for safer alternatives. Among the emerging options, the Northern Sea Route (NSR), which runs through the Arctic, is gaining recognition as a potential strategic pathway, though not without considerable risks. Stretching along the northern Siberian coast, the NSR links East Asia to Europe and can cut shipping times by 30 to 40% compared to the route through the Suez Canal. Due to the effects of climate change, the route is now navigable for roughly 90 to 100 days per year, significantly more than in the past. This has raised a paradoxical question. Is the world turning a climate crisis into a strategic opportunity? Russia has heavily invested in nuclear-powered icebreakers like Arctica and Siberiak to keep the route navigable in extreme Arctic conditions. Meanwhile, China, despite lacking Arctic territory, considers the NSR a vital part of its Polar Silk Road strategy aimed at diversifying trade routes and reducing reliance on maritime chokepoints dominated by Western powers. Yet the NSR faces persistent hurdles, limited port infrastructure, high operating costs, harsh environmental conditions, and unresolved legal disputes. Still, amid ongoing global supply chain disruptions, the route is increasingly viewed as a strategic corridor that could reshape the flow of international trade in the 21st century. As key maritime routes like the Strait of Malacca, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Red Sea face growing threats from geopolitical tensions and security risks, Russia and China have quietly begun shifting their strategic focus northward. The Northern Sea Route (NSR), running along Russia's Arctic coastline, is emerging as a promising alternative, shortening the Asia-Europe shipping distance by up to 40% compared to the Suez Canal. Ironically, climate change, once seen as a major obstacle, has made this icy passage increasingly viable, with longer, navigable seasons each year. For global powers aiming to redraw the transportation map, this opens up a new frontier. Russia sits at the center of this Arctic ambition, boasting the world's largest fleet of nuclear-powered icebreakers, including advanced vessels like Arctica and Sibir. Meanwhile, China has made no secret of its desire to become a near-Arctic power, investing heavily in Arctic ports, cold chain logistics, and ice-capable container ships. A key turning point came in June 2024, when Moscow and Beijing signed a landmark agreement to establish a year-round container shipping route along the NSR. Though year-round navigation remains a challenge, the agreement lays the groundwork for a new independent trade corridor free from reliance on Western-dominated routes like the Suez Canal or the Indian Ocean-Mediterranean axis. Climate scientists predict that if the current melting trends persist, the NSR could become the leading summer shipping route and potentially operate year-round by the end of the 21st century. This development would directly challenge the strategic position of Egypt and its control of the Suez Canal. More than just a logistical detour, the Northern Sea Route is becoming a symbol of the shifting balance in global trade. While the West remains anchored to aging vulnerable sea lanes, Russia and China are quietly redrawing the map through icy waters and frozen frontiers, but with enormous strategic promise. China is steadily expanding its land and maritime transport networks to reduce reliance on routes dominated by the West. The railway to Iran and the Arctic shipping lane are both key components of this strategy. China's goal is clear: to secure its logistics, maintain stable trade flows, and boost its global influence. This marks a significant shift in how nations compete and cooperate in the modern era. If you found this video insightful and want to keep exploring fascinating geopolitical perspectives, like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming journeys. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.